By mid-May 2026, the macroeconomic environment has reached a state of extreme friction. Crude oil has sustained its position above $100 a barrel, the Strait of Hormuz is closed, and the 10-year Treasury yield has spiked to 4.59%. For most households, the response to these yields is a behavior labeled discipline by deferral. When the cost of borrowing spikes, families freeze their long-term plans, slowing down durable goods purchases and effectively putting their life decisions on hold. This deferral operates as a quiet form of submission. By waiting for the yields to soften before making a move, the individual effectively grants the system veto power over their immediate future. There is a specific structural shift occurring here. In the previous cycle, the Fed's rate path was treated as a data-dependent variable. But with the 2-year yield now sitting above the target range upper bound, the market is signaling that the period of negotiation is over. The variable has become a fixed boundary. Look at this settlement notice. It marks the transition from a warning phase into a consequence phase. Studying these institutional locks doesn't give you the ability to pick them. It only documents the fact that you are currently on the outside. When you treat a fixed institutional boundary as something you can still negotiate with, you enter a state of suspended animation. You are waiting for a signal to move from the same structure that just locked the gate. The current public narrative is one of high-volume panic. Financial news coverage is saturated with the April inflation surge, predicting that surging energy costs will force the Federal Reserve to hike rates at their next meeting. But the capital markets are signaling a different reality. This probability dial shows the Fed June 26 contract pricing a rate hold at 0.68. Despite the noise in the headlines, professional capital is betting that the target range will remain unchanged. This creates a 13-point sentiment gap between the public narrative and professional capital. Institutional investors have already absorbed the inflation data and are treating it as known volatility that the existing framework can handle. The center of this stability is incoming Fed Chair Kevin Warsh. The institutional consensus is that a new chair does not break the established order at his very first meeting, making the June 16th conference an immovable anchor for the current rate. While the individual investor spends their energy trying to navigate the daily swings in the narrative, professional capital has already closed the gap and moved on. The warning has been processed into a priced settlement. This demonstrates that leverage doesn't come from tracking the chaos of the news cycle. It comes from detaching from the sensory narrative and identifying the actual structural boundaries that the institutions have already fixed. This enforcement pattern isn't limited to finance. On May 15th, a California court moved from warnings to penalties, ordering the city of Huntington Beach to pay for its continued defiance of state housing laws. The legal pillar shows the cost of this boundary. Starting June 1st, the city faces a monthly penalty of $50,000. Simultaneously, the ethical domain shifted. Pope Leo XIV signed the encyclical Magnifica Humanitas. This isn't a negotiation, it's a fiscal countdown designed to make non-compliance unsustainable, addressing the rapid deployment of generative AI. By grounding AI ethics in the dignity of human labor, this doctrine moves the technology out of the realm of soft-governed innovation and into a framework of rigid, doctrinal human rights. We are witnessing a calendrical compression. Between May 28th and June 16th, 3 separate domains, housing law, religious doctrine, and monetary policy, are all arriving at their respective enforcement deadlines at once. These institutions, courts, the Vatican, and the Fed, operate on timelines that span decades. They are executing their plans with absolute indifference to the daily news cycle that the average viewer is reacting to. Fixating on this timeline doesn't grant you any control over the collision. It only confirms the scale of the institution's reach. The events of mid-June are functionally settled. The housing penalties will begin to accrue, the new AI doctrine will begin to shape European regulations, and the Fed will likely hold its target range.
The global enclosure is executing its scheduled move. None of these macro-level institutional movements have any power over your personal agency, unless you choose to give them your attention. To reclaim that agency, you have to apply the law of substitution. This is a deliberate, mechanical shift of focus. It requires you to stop analyzing the 68% probabilities and the pending court deadlines. You must execute an exclusive redirection of your focus. cull your attention entirely away from the macro crises of May 2026 and place it solely on the immediate physical reality of your own environment. The institutions have built their fence and set their terms. Your only act of true sovereignty is to stop standing at the gate and permanently turn your back to it.